Hey, it is Monday, and it's the Monday after a conference. So most of the space is probably sleeping / traveling. Bolin and I, smart, dumb, I don't know what we are, but we got the heck out of there a little bit earlier than everybody else to make sure we beat the travel rush home. So we're here, and I'm joined today with my good friend Bolin. We recorded some cool stuff over the conference. Obviously, we haven't released it yet, but super stoked to share that. But Bolin, how you doing, brother?
Doing well. Had a good time, but also glad to be home.
It's always nice to come home, eh?
It is.
I mean, anyways, we're going to talk a little bit about ETH Denver. We'll do a quick recap, what the conference is all about, what was the energy like, narratives, etc. We're going to talk a little bit about some predictions from the founders of ETH Denver. We're going to talk about a modular blockchain boom, which is hilarious. I've got some funny anecdotes for that one. There's a U.S. court that has ruled that trading on secondary markets is deemed as securities entirely. So this is all kind of interesting leading into the Coinbase case and so on. We're going to talk a little bit about meme coins, GameFi. Like it's pretty much the full menu today. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe for dessert, Bolin will tell us something cool about DeFi kingdoms and maybe build on some of the FOMO that we all got from ETH Denver. So, all right, Bolin, quick before we get started, do you want to do like a couple second blurb on DeFi Kingdoms? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, Director of Player Engagement for Kingdom Studios, which is the development company behind DeFi Kingdoms. DeFi Kingdoms is a gamified DeFi platform and building an RPG on top of said gamified DeFi platform.
It's really cool. I'm biased, of course. We've been friends forever and have been working together and collaborating for a long time, but it's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. And what I have to say is often these games, if they don't get incredible traction right away, they just stop evolving and developing. And what's been really cool is you could start playing DeFi Kingdoms today, or you could have been playing it for a few years, and there's a path that is exciting and attainable for everybody. Anyways, enough shilling, and we will get right into the excitement. Let's go. All right, we're back, man. There's something about that. Vid that just gets me grooving.
I love it.
That's
I love it every time.
So before we get too deep into the ETH Denver stuff, which I'm excited to talk about, quick shout out to Opolis for updating their merch. So this is like Opolis merch V2. It kind of looks like Opolis merch V1, but it's blue. And they had a few other colors, and it was exciting. So thank you to the new swath of merch sponsors for this season of Go Fight Yourself, because we've got some new merch to show off, some really cool stuff. But Bolin, I mean, so much happened at ETH Denver. It was pretty crazy. How would you sum it up? What was kind of your take on ETH Denver 24?
Genuine excitement in crypto, which is always good to see. Last year, ETH Denver was a bit interesting. It was a little more down, and a lot of the events last year were a little more humbled. And this year, like it was just a lot of focus on the future, a lot of excitement for the space, and all about the potential.
Yeah, I mean, I have to, of course, echo that. What's interesting about the space is we're kind of trying to straddle two seemingly disconnected interests in a lot of ways. We're kind of connecting this like kind of cypherpunk, kind of a little bit like edgy, kind of young, modern, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then there's like the finance side of everything. So there's like it's an interesting cross section of people to try to. I mean, in TradFi, most of the conferences are like Milken. They're at fancy hotels with fancy dinners and suits and ties and big speakers. Crypto conferences often are about that, of course. At the end of the day, it's all about the business and the commerce, and that's why people are there to do cool things and to make money. But it's really interesting at these conferences because you have to appeal to both. And so
Yeah.
there's like, when you first walk in, if this is your first time, you walk in and one of the first things that you probably would have seen is the gaming area. And there's like a giant octopus and a DJ booth, and it's dark in there, and everybody's chilling on bean bags and all this stuff. It's a weird experience if you come like I did from kind of a stuffier environment of traditional finance. So it's kind of interesting. But what's really neat is a lot of these events and a lot of the a lot of the side events and stuff and
Yeah.
the get-togethers I feel like they're just a little bit more human than otherwise. Like they're in these really cool little venues all the time, coffee shops and lunch spots, and they're relatively intimate usually. You know,
There's one that was at a gun range.
Yeah, that shooting range. Like they have them at axe throwing and go-karts, and it's kind of cool because it's in a way that you don't see in as many other industries.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, there's opportunities to engage your partners, to engage your users, your investors. Like it's really a cross section.
And you never know who you might be talking to. You know, the biggest whale that might be interested in what you're talking about may be the dude in shorts and flip-flops and you know, paint covered t-shirt. Like you just don't, well, maybe not in Denver because it's cold, but you know,
it was pretty warm, all things considered.
It was, but compared to the last couple of years, it definitely was.
Man.
But you just never know. Like the suit and ties are out the door. You know, it's a lot more relaxed. And so, you know, everybody that's walking around there is walking around there for a reason. And you don't know who they are or what their reason is, which is quite interesting. I like it. It's more fun that way to me.
Yeah. Ascending Man, good morning, bro. Didn't catch you at Denver, but we'll have to make sure we get together when you guys when we're at the same conference at the same time. He's just one of our awesome friends that watches all the time and commenting on our YouTube. But okay, so I mean, it was pretty cool. The ambiance was fun. I mean, there was some really cool setups and displays and arts, and it was really neat. There was a lot of cool stuff there. But I mean, we also all were there for a bit of a purpose too. It wasn't just to have fun and pat each other on the back for a good bear market, but there was a lot of exciting announcements and a lot of exciting kind of narratives emerging and really cool projects kind of close to coming to market, which is pretty cool. But what would you say kind of what was your favorite part? What kind of sums up ETH Denver? What did you do that was just like, okay, that was it. That was the excitement.
Well, I mean, I'm biased because we made a big announcement. So our announcement, obviously,
I'm setting you up for it. That was the
point. Yeah, I mean, we did get to announce a partnership with a new blockchain, which is Metis, the ETH L2, and announced in that we will be developing player versus player combat exclusively on the Metis blockchain. Which is super exciting. It's something that, you know, our players have wanted for a long time. We've wanted for a long time, and this partnership is going to really help bring it to fruition a lot sooner than it otherwise might have. It'll really help us accelerate those timelines, figure out how we want to do it, and go. And so I'm really excited for that for a lot of reasons. But outside of that, I think just seeing how many blockchains were there to, you know, pursue new opportunities on their chains was really cool. Seeing how many projects were there and looking at either, you know, launching or they've already launched. But just seeing like ETH Denver is always interesting because it's free to attend. So you do get a little more of the of the looking crowd, of the participant crowd. That's a better word for it. But this year I feel like there was a really high number of like projects and chains and companies, a lot of infra. There was a lot of infrastructure providers there, but that's good because I mean we need infrastructure. So you know, the sheer number of booths I think was really awesome to see as well.
Yeah, I mean over time, obviously, a lot of these businesses that are now kind of our OGs in crypto are still relatively new by normal business maturity standards. And so, you know, now that we're getting probably 5-6 years of meaningful DeFi and proper proliferation, you know, we're starting to see a lot of pretty exciting pretty exciting products being developed. But I think it's been exciting. Like the infrastructure, these booths are getting so much more sophisticated. They're getting better at how to present at these things. It's pretty exciting, I think. I mean, the booths are noticeably better every year. I don't know if that's these companies have more money now than ever before. I don't know. But I think it's just, you're building on your experience, right? The crypto conference isn't cookie cutter from every other conference. It's very different. And so, I think we're growing up a little bit. It really felt like one of the more well-organized ETH Denvers, of course. That's a really interesting point. I never really thought about that. It's one of the only major conferences that is entirely free. Well, not entirely, but pretty much. And you do get a very interesting cross-section. To my point earlier, you really notice it at certain conferences where it's not just a bunch of builders getting together somewhere in the world and making each other happy, but rather you're actually engaging with people that may not know a darn thing about the space, and really are just walking through to learn and kind of immerse themselves in what the heck everybody's talking about. So it's pretty cool. There was some other cool stuff, obviously. I mean, we could probably talk for days about all the cool stuff, but there's a lot of like pop-up events, food trucks, hacker houses. A lot of projects, kind of a new trend is rent a nice Airbnb and then just, instead of chasing everybody else around, you just have everybody come over to your hacker house for a snack and a pop or something. And that was pretty cool. The hackathon obviously was pretty interesting. There was a lot of gaming stuff. I noticed a ton of gaming stuff this year relative to other years, probably because a lot of these gaming studios that have been talking about building finally have started deploying some stuff. It takes forever, obviously, to deploy these games. It's not simple. So that was cool. And then, of course, one of my favorite parts, and I'm super stoked for next year, but we did On Location podcast. Yes, we recorded a few episodes of Go Fudge Yourself that we think are going to be a little bit evergreen. They're really cool. We had some great guests. Spoiler alert: Bolin was one of them. So we that was really cool. It was a really cool setup, really cool location. It was a lot of fun.
The podcast area was beautiful. Like it was so well done. Like huge shout out to ETH Denver. That was awesome and way better than last year. It was a massive step up and it was fantastic.
And it was just like they had really nice backgrounds. Like it was just well done. You showed up, they had all this, the sound engineer was there, everything was ready, the mics, the chairs, the headphones, like you didn't have to do really anything. It was amazing, actually. Big shout out to those guys. Super easy to work with. It was a lot of fun. But all in all, it was a great time. Denver, you never know what you're going to get weather-wise. It was, all things considered, pretty darn nice for end of Feb, beginning of March in Denver. But I'm happy to be home. All right. Let's move on a little bit from the excitement of ETH Denver as a general rule. And let's move on a little bit to some price predictions. So I'm gonna read the article actually, and then set it up for you a little bit, and then you can jump in and give me your opinion on this whole one. But one of the founders of ETH Denver, John Paller, was talking about the future trends and investments in crypto. He emphasizes the importance of investing in user-facing tools like UI, UX, and governance tools for greater DeFi and DAO adoption. Excuse me. In this conversation, they delve into shifting regulatory dynamics, evolving public sentiment post FTX and Terra, and preparing for the impending bull market and predictions for DAO 2.0, DeFi 2.0, and NFT 2.0. He highlights the need for usability improvements to compete with Web 2 products and foresees a resurgence of DAOs with enhanced functionality. He predicted at the very end of this, there will be some finalities around layer 2s in 2024, ending protocol wars. That's a really loaded statement. And so before I give my opinion on this whole thing, what do you think? Do you think Paller's on right here, or is he out to lunch? What do you think?
A little bit both. I think he's dead on about accessibility, UI, UX. Like we've got to keep getting better about it. I think account abstraction is a big part of that to make it a lot less painful to use the blockchain. I think overall, like user experience, that's a large part of like what originally inspired DFK to do, gamified DeFi. Is it's more fun. It's more like user friendly. It's pretty, and so I think the more that we can continue to improve that, the better that it will be across the whole space. I think we've had such a focus for years on like, look at how awesome this technology is, and that's great. Like that's not bad, but that technology has to be easy to use. It has to be user friendly. So I fully agree there. Torn on the DAO thing. I have a lot of thoughts there. And then as far as the like ending the war, I don't know about that. I think we're gonna see a lot of blockchains continue to release and to have different offerings. I think we've got a long way to go there, but I don't think that that's bad. I think that really pushes the space as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been banging on this drum for quite a while. That, in my opinion, the biggest barrier right now to mass adoption is actually, in fact, UX and UI. I'm not sure that it's regulation or TradFi adoption or any of that stuff. I think it's actually just simply a UX obstacle. And if you think about it, right, like, and I tell this story all the time. So if you watch the pod, you've probably heard it a little bit. But we kind of say to people, hey, we've got this incredible technology here. And it really is a 0 to 1. It really does democratize finance and access to, class movement and so on. It really does offer all of those opportunities. But in order to get there, you're going to get beat up a little bit. You got to crawl through some mud. You're probably going to get robbed. And then you're going to show up with some bruises and you're going to have a completely different life. Are you in? And most people, as we know, human nature is path of least resistance, not right. Resistance. And so most people just don't do a darn thing. They go, yeah, that's way too much. So I do agree with him very deeply, actually. I've been speaking about this and building in this direction for quite some time. I'm not entirely sure that I agree with the L2 madness coming to an end, because in my opinion, one of the common themes that I noticed at ETH Denver is the L2s are the buzzword right now. Everybody seems to be building an L2. There's way more L2s than I even knew existed that I saw at ETH Denver. So I'm not sure if we're going to get to that point. I hope at some point we change the thought process around it, because right now what's happening in the space, in my opinion, and understandably so, people are chasing narrative, chasing momentum, chasing hype. So when you're launching a product, the question should be, what is the best technology to make the most efficient use of what I'm trying to build? That's the only thing that we should be thinking. That's the home. That's what I'm going to build it on top of this blockchain or this tech layer because it is absolutely the best. But that's not what happens. What happens right now is, okay, is this good enough? And is there enough momentum that we can raise money and survive?
Yep.
And that sucks, because that's going to continue this circus of kind of that movement of capital, vulture capital, I very affectionately refer to it as. But it's, just chasing yield, chasing hype, chasing airdrops, chasing whatever. At some point, the music's going to stop and we're all going to go, holy crap, we've fragmented the hell out of liquidity. And all that happens is it's vastly similar liquidity that just moves from chain to chain. So you'll see one chain that's going bananas, and then soon that one kind of fizzles out, and another one goes bananas. I mean, that's not sustainable. That's not what a good mature space is built on top of. So,
and we see it happen a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it does. And so I'm not sure that I'm as confident that the L2 madness is going to end soon, but I sure hope it does, for probably similar reasons. I mean, and we talk about account abstraction, and we're going to talk about some buzzwords in a second. But we talk about a lot of these things. So I think there is an interest, or at least an understanding, that a lot of the complexity of bridging and token standards and VM languages and all of this other crap, wrapping and unwrapping and all of fiat on-ramp, off-ramp, permissioning, whatever. I mean, all of that stuff sounds fantastic, but as we continue to expand more and more and more L2s, it adds more and more and more vectors of complexity. And we're not doing anything to counter that with better user experience or UIs. And I mean, obviously, I think the space is doing a lot in that regard. Don't get me wrong. We just haven't seen a lot of it at the forefront of the narrative and the discussion. So hopefully we see more of that.
It's always an afterthought.
Kind of, right? Like it's always like, oh, okay, we built something cool. Let's make sure people can maybe access it. Anyways, I could probably go on about the DAO. What I think is going to happen with the DAO is in the next little while. Maybe we'll do a whole episode on that because I think we both have kind of unique, interesting experiences there. But something I noticed at ETH Denver, of course, was buzzwords. There was a lot of buzzwords. The buzzwords this cycle, in my opinion, modularity, intent-centric, AI, and what was the other one? There's 4 of them. Modularity, AI, intent-centric.
If it's not interoperability, you should add that.
I can't remember what the 4th one was, but nonetheless, there was 4. And here's, Gupta, Kavita Gupta from, I don't actually remember where she's from. Where's she from? She had roles at the World Bank, IFC, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, so she says that there's going to be a modular blockchain boom. Okay. I mean, that's pretty interesting claim, considering that's kind of what the vast majority of these things are building towards. But essentially, she praises modular blockchains for their scalability and security, which is crucial, in her opinion, for institutional adoption. She cautions against restaking's complexity and risks. This is something kind of interesting that we'll talk about in a minute. And she advocates for innovation balanced with security. I think essentially, to sum up this article, more or less she's saying, if your blockchain is more modular, you can build in a lot more kind of user-friendly and security-focused implements, I guess, to make your whole product or ecosystem that much more secure, safe, and easier to use. I mean, that kind of makes sense. Modular blockchain technology is kind of what Eigenlayer is talking about, where you can pick and play a lot of these things and deploy a blockchain with a whole bunch of Lego blocks already established. There's a lot of other places doing that. Avalanche, obviously. I think Polygon with their supernets, if that's even a thing still. I've heard a bit about Solana, the Solana L2s and different ways to build on Solana and use their consensus. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to consider these things modular, but I agree. I think, it allows you to program and individualize your security and risk management for the type of protocol that you're running. If you're doing a foreign exchange protocol with major financial institutions globally, probably a different security profile than if you're, I don't know, I was going to say playing a game on chain, but sometimes those games on chain have pretty good value at risk also. So yeah. Anyways, what do you think? Modularity, is that the future?
In general, I think yes. What form that looks like, I think is still TBD. Because right now there's a lot of different approaches to it, right? Yeah. Obviously I'm a fan of Avalanche subnets. We've had very good experiences. But is that the permanent right answer? I don't know. Nobody knows yet. But I do think modularity is a very key part because you can have purpose-built blockchains. And that's fantastic for so many different things. For us as an on-chain game, it gives us more control over the network itself and gas and transaction processing. For a bank who wants to come over into the Web3 side of things, they can have their own blockchain with their own security that's fully closed off only to them. It's going to be the most centralized blockchain in existence. It doesn't matter. That's their purpose anyway. So I think there's a lot of potential there. And I think it opens the door for a lot of industries to be able to come into Web3 without having to go through all of the risk and everything that they otherwise would.
Yeah. I mean, modularity really is, in a lot of ways, kind of the buzzword of the day. I think if I had to boil down the majority of the hype at Denver. I think it had a lot to do with modularity, infrastructure, and probably restaking. Restaking was like unavoidable. Eigenlayer, of course, Sriram was like a bloody celebrity walking around. Like you couldn't even talk to him. The guy was just inundated with everybody. And so I think restaking is really exciting. I think it offers a really interesting take on securing blockchains and how to, borrow some of the security and scale of other blockchains. It also introduces some good risks. It's more kind of hypothecation of underliers, and that kind of continues and continues. Eventually, that adds, well, not eventually, immediately it adds, additional layers of risk. So it's pretty cool. I think the jury's still out on whether it hasn't been battle tested yet.
Right.
If it works the way we think, it's going to be pretty exciting. My one caution, and this is kind of building on some of the discussions from the ETH Denver founder, but I think as we increase the capacity to launch these unique and bespoke blockchains, we have to also find ways to connect them and maintain composability and interop. And there's a lot of infrastructure being built there, but we need to continue to think about that. Okay, so I have my own chain. You guys are obviously very aware of this. You got to figure out cross-chain messaging and bridging and security and validators. And there's so many more things that you have to consider when you have your own chain.
Yes.
And I mean, it definitely is a challenge often connecting to all the other chains that are out there. So I'm excited to see what smart people come up with in terms of a solution for that. But that will be, in my opinion, critical. If we're going to have all of these, blockchains and blockchain as a service and all of this other nonsense, we have to find ways to connect them to the infra, the general infra blockchain, which right now is tough. You launch a new chain and ask Chainlink to support it, you're talking years.
Yeah.
And a lot of money. and so nothing against Chainlink. It's just there's only a few providers in the space at scale. And that's it. Those are your only options. So they're in high demand. There's only a few options with the infrastructure to actually and meaningfully support your Oracle needs or bridge needs or all these other things. Layer 0, Wormhole, et cetera, with their bridges.
Right.
Axwire, same thing. I mean, they can't just spin up a bridge in 15 minutes. It's not quite that simple. So I think we're going to need to see a lot more of that in the next little bit. A lot more, again, building towards that user experience. But as we solve some problems, often we unmask some other ones. And so here we are. I think it's a good challenge for us this cycle. The infrastructure is definitely there. In terms of the base infrastructure, now we got to figure out a little bit of that lipstick to put on the pig and make it a little bit more usable for everybody. Okay, we're actually gonna skip over the trading on secondary markets deemed as securities. We're gonna save that, I think, for probably crypto arms race, and we're running out of time. But meme coins. So we have two more topics to talk about quickly. It's going to be a bit of a fire or a fast round, but meme coins. Meme coins were all the rage. If you've looked at a lot of the meme coin charts in the last little bit, many of them are up 50+%. Even some of the big large caps. I was looking at CoinGecko earlier today. Let me pull it up here to make sure I don't misstate it. I was looking at CoinGecko earlier today, and I thought it was pretty funny that Dogecoin and Shiba are straddling the top 10 still. In terms of total market cap in the space. And they are, in fact, tokens with zero utility, generally speaking. Not quite zero utility, but you know what I mean. Which is interesting. They are a meme. They never really intended on doing anything beyond being a meme. And here we are at, respectively, for Doge and Shiba, we're at 25.5 billion and 20 billion in market cap for a meme. So interesting. The crypto market cap has now surpassed 2.5 trillion, which I think, and you can't quote me on this, I think is the highest it's ever been as a space market cap. I'm not 100% certain of that, so don't take that to the bank. But obviously, the meme coin market, as evidenced by just the two top meme coins that I told you before, have flown past 40 billion in valuation. And meme coins, believe it or not, are worth more than DeFi and exchanges and all of these other things that actually facilitate the vast majority of activity on crypto. Yet meme coins, all the rage. What do you think about that? It's definitely a bit of a phenomenon of this generation. We've seen it with some stocks, GME and different things.
Yeah.
Kind of becoming a little bit memey, but this has been like a real thing. Like there's some people that this is all they do is play meme coins. How do you feel about it? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it interesting? Where are you at?
I think meme coins can serve a purpose. I think that they are actually bad for the space as a whole because if outsiders are looking in and what they see are meme coins, that's why we aren't taken seriously. And that's why we're viewed as so risky, right? Is because meme coins are nothing but risk. It's 100%. Not that everything isn't risk, but meme coins are 100% pure risk. There's no utility. It's just a meme. And
Purely speculation.
I think, don't get me wrong, if your ideal is day trading and if you are good at it, meme coins are probably where you want to be. Because it's not that hard for them to do 100x. Now they're also probably at some point going to do a negative 100x, but I kind of get it from like the day trading side. Meme coins have the easiest they have the highest volatility, so you can make big or break or lose big.
I mean some of the larger cap meme coins. This is what's kind of interesting though.
Yeah,
you see like Shiba and Doge. They do fluctuate wildly, but their market cap is so big now. It's actually almost not memey anymore.
Right.
Like it's not,
they've almost broken out into a new category that we don't have a name for yet. And I don't know what it's going to be.
It's like blue chip memes. Like I don't even know what the answer is.
Maybe
it's super strange. But I struggle with it. Like I don't like the meme coin thing because, we're out here trying to convince people that there's real value in what we're doing. Right. And so we're trying to build things that have real world value that actually make people's lives better, that we think, now and over time we can meaningfully make a difference. I just can't get on board with the meme coins. Like to me, it's not adding anything. Now, I mean, there are a good amount of people. Excuse me. There are a good amount of people that that make money on them, but there's a lot of people that lose money, and that's why it's a problem. These meme coins, there's some people that have made it their life's purpose to trade and manipulate meme coins, and it's risky business. So I guess without giving financial advice, do your research and be a little bit careful. Okay, lastly, for Mr. Bolin from DeFi Kingdoms, GameFi tokens dominate 2024. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. GameFi has been one of the emerging narratives for realistically a while now. I think we'll see that continue. I think GameFi is one of the only emerging narratives that actually has a product to back it up. A lot of people have been talking and focused on AI and all, very hardcore into AI, but realistically, if you want to invest in AI today, your options are pretty limited. You can invest in people who say that they're going to develop AI in projects that are AI centric, but they really don't exist yet. GameFi exists. GameFi exists today and has for a few years now, depending on the game. We've been around. Axie's been around longer than we have. You got some really big new names coming out the gate swinging big. We'll see what they do. Obviously, I don't mean this as any shade towards them. We did it too. Like it's all good, but it's a lot easier to attract that attention while you're doing really big airdrops and you're launching and everything. So it's all about the ability to sustain.
Yeah. How do you keep people interested over time? That's
right. Yeah. I believe some of these guys have the potential to sustain and keep people interested, and I really hope they do. What's good for one is good for all at this point. There's no competition in GameFi. It's not a big enough industry. We need more people. So I'm rooting for all of them. I hope they all do incredibly well, and I think
why do you think now? Is there something like, has the technology gotten to a certain point all of a sudden in this cycle, or has the maturity of the space? What do you think is the catalyst for why GameFi is finally getting the traction it deserves?
I think part of it is the maturity of the space. I think part of it is that there's some big names that are starting to see like, hey, this isn't going away, and get a little more play in there. Part of it is, while I still think we have improvements to make on UI and UX, we have made improvements on UI UX. And I think that'll go a long way. And I think a lot of gaming companies are figuring out that they can use Web3 while greatly minimizing the use of Web3.
Right.
And that way, like, to their users, they really can't tell that they're on blockchain at all, or really ever tell them they're on blockchain at all, but they're using it to settle different things, to use in-game currencies.
Yeah.
So, I have mixed feelings on that. Obviously, we are as on-chain as we possibly can be, but I don't think that it's a bad approach. And I think it's the first step towards why we all wanted blockchain gaming, for ownership, right? And so if you can inject that ownership to an extent, at least, I take that as a win every time.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's guys like yourselves who have been kind of building the plane while it's in the air out of necessity. It's a startup in a new space, right? New concept. And then there's a lot of, like, what we're seeing now is a lot of these kind of like AAA studios, a lot of these bigger names that have some reputation previous to this, specifically with a specific game or a specific deployment. And, now we're finally seeing some of those guys come over, but the development cycle for those products is multiple years, right? Like a AAA game is, I can't remember what someone quoted the cost, hundreds of millions in cost.
Oh yeah.
3 to 5 years. Like, I mean, it's a huge endeavor building a game regardless. So, I mean, it's really interesting to see you guys building as the space is figuring itself out. And in parallel, there's larger game studios and so on that are kind of doing their thing and trying to test out the waters. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of all evolves. All right, man. Well, GameFi, I like to end on that note. I think I have to agree between EigenLayer and a lot of gaming stuff. That was restaking in gaming was probably the two biggest narratives I heard. Of course, 10 million L2s, ZKs, obviously. Tacos, yoga, all that stuff was really good. But just to end on a quick note before we go FUD everybody for the day, you guys are launching at some point in the relative near future PvP on the Metis blockchain. PvP is pretty awesome. So for anybody, I'm going to show a little bit for you and give you a second to jump into it. But you guys enabled PvE about, what, a year ago?
About 6 months.
Okay, 6 months ago. And the adoption of that and the excitement around PvE has been probably quite a bit better than you guys expected. So this is stinking exciting, I think. And so anybody that is not familiar with DeFi Kingdoms, if you want to start tooling up for the PvP experience, no better time than the present. Bullen, as far as exciting things coming out of DeFi Kingdoms, what can we expect in addition to PvP?
Yeah, so we actually just dropped a new PvE experience last week as well, the day before we announced PvP coming to Metis. So there's a brand new PvE experience that you can go and play now. You can gather equipment to start arming up on your heroes and getting them suited for battle. Outside of that, we're coming up on introducing a couple more classes into combat. So we have a series of different classes that your heroes can be. We're adding each of them into our combat system. So we're going to be adding a few more of those here in the short term. And then also expeditions, which is what we're calling our new questing system, which is more of like a set it and forget kind of thing. So if you just want to passively farm materials, we will have the way to do that soon as well.
There's a game that I play in my personal life. We won't talk about it, but I can see how incredibly fun and engaging these types of games are. And you guys are really kicking it up a notch. Super exciting. All right, Bullen, brother, thank you a ton for joining us today. Thanks for, how about that Pepe? Yeah. Pepe. Sorry, Ascending Man. I forgot the Pepe, probably the most important meme coin of the cycle. But maybe we'll cover that on DGen Day on Wednesday a little bit. Hint, hint, Kiara. Anyways, Bullen, today I say to you, my friend, go fight yourself.
Appreciate you, and go fudge yourself.
Later, bro.